And welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. We're going to watch a movie tonight. And this one's to do with Star Wars. That's why I'm wearing my Star Wars The First 10 Years baseball cap here. This is Plastic Galaxy, the story of Star Wars toys. This came out in 2014, and it's a documentary about the Kenner toys. So I thought, let's get some of my friends on the couch with me. You've already seen me do my video about Yak Face, still in his original packaging. Here is Blue Snaggletooth. I've done a video about him. Took him out of that custom box I made. But there's a couple of others on here that are maybe rare, maybe not. This is my Han Solo figure, the original one that I had, and he's got the very small little head. I don't know if he's super valuable or not. I know after a couple of years, Kenner released the Han Solo with the slightly larger head that looked a bit more like Harrison Ford. But I've got my Han with small head there. Then we get a little bit complicated. This is Anakin Skywalker from the Return of the Jedi, old Anakin Skywalker. I don't know that this is all that rare. I've seen this on eBay for like 10 bucks loose. But I've also heard some people say it's super valuable. I'm guessing, I know this was like one that you sent away for a mail order, like you sent in your little proof of purchases and he arrived in the mail. And I thought he just arrived in a plastic bag, but I think there's like a card back for him. I'm not sure. I may have had him with the card back, but unfortunately I opened him years ago. So if that makes him rare, then unfortunately this guy isn't really worth much more than 10 bucks. The last one is very interesting. This is FX7, who is not that terribly rare or valuable by any stretch of the imagination, with one exception. A couple of years ago, and I'll put a link down below that where I learned this, there is, Kenner released all the Star Wars toys in North America. In Britain, they were distributed by a company called Palitoy, and for some reason, inexplicably, FX7 on the card back with the Palitoy logo went for $10,000. I don't know why. He's like 10 bucks normally, but for some reason, this one particular sale, he was considered super valuable. I'm not sure why, but whatever. So, I just thought I'd have my rather rare fellas here join me on the couch, and we're going to watch Plastic Galaxy.
In the late 70s and early 80s, you weren't going to see the movies over and over. For a lot of kids, the toys, I think, became more important than the movies. Because they were going to get to play with the toys.
I know, right? I wish I had a room like that.
They were going to get to talk about the toys nearly every day.
You know, if you were going over to your friend's house, you almost didn't have to ask, do I bring my Star Wars guys?
There had never been a successful toy license based on a movie. Movies came and went.
Yeah, lightsaber does look like it's in his ear.
The licensing industry at that point was fairly new.
There had been some tie-ins of movies and toys, so there are examples of like Planet of the Apes.
Really? $10,000, eh? Oh, right. So what did I think of Plastic Galaxy, the story of Star Wars toys? Well, clearly as a collector, I'm going to love it. I mean, it's a really good film. I won't gush, though. Like, there are a couple of minor things I would say there are points against it. But let's start with the positives. It's got a really good length. It's just a little bit over an hour long. So I don't know if it'll ever be like in a standard format television slot, but it'll probably come out on Netflix or definitely get the DVD if you can. It's a really good film. It's interesting to hear some of the stuff of the history behind the making of the toys and also the history of Kenner itself. I didn't know they were named after a street. That was interesting. Also, it was very fascinating to see. I mean, I know a lot of the stuff, the Boba Fett with the rocket, the fires, and that kind of thing. But to see prototypes of the Reese alien figure and what they would send to actually get it all created and replicated as an action figure, that was really interesting. The eventual demise of the interest in Star Wars. I mean, again, that's something that's hard to explain to somebody these days, but having lived through that period, I remember the 80s, there was a point where people just didn't really care. I mean, I've got this hat from 1987, but this was kind of an unusual item for back in those days. There were a couple of things I was surprised they didn't really touch on. They do go into a section about the troop transport, which was never in the films, and I thought, oh, we're going to hear about all those other vehicles that were never in the films. For example, the mini rigs. I bought these thinking, a friend of mine had told me, oh yeah, these are going to be in Return of the Jedi, you know. I'm like, oh really? I better buy them. And they never were, and I still got them. I don't know really why I held on to them over these years. And I'm surprised in this documentary they didn't touch on that at all. So mini rigs would have been interesting. They do gloss over a lot of the toys that were proposed and the ones that were actually built. But I would have liked to have seen a little discussion about that. And while we're on the subject, we might as well cover the other negatives. There are a couple of spots where, you know how some documentaries and reality TV shows, there isn't any drama occurring, so they'll slow down the film and they'll make it black and white and they'll do like a Dutch angle to emphasize, oh, this really minor comment has a lot of weight. There's a little bit of that where they talk about the ups and downs of the history of the of Kenner's production of the action figures, and it's a little played at times. So, but you know what? Those are very minor criticisms. That, the lack of the mini rigs. And I don't know, maybe just, if you're not into collecting Star Wars stuff, I don't know how fascinating this is. From somebody on the inside, it seems so pointed directly at me as an audience member. I don't know that a lot of other people would find it that compelling. So to me, that's a bit of a negative. I mean, it doesn't have, say for example, The King of Kong. That is you don't have to be into video games or Donkey Kong history to really enjoy that as a film. This doesn't seem to have that same appeal. Having said that, my mother just watched it recently, just on her own kind of interest level, and she remembers me buying all those toys, and she loved it. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is something that appeals to everybody. So yeah, I'm going to wrap up the review, but it's a really good show for those of us who loved collecting Star Wars stuff. And if you can get to the DVD, please do so. I think the filmmakers deserve every bit of support that they can get. And yeah, I loved it. Thumbs up. So until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.